Welcome back to another enlightening episode of Business, Bourbon, and Cigars. This is your podcast where we're going to explore strategies and insights that help you elevate your business game and transform your approach to leadership. I'm your host, Scott Joseph, and today we've got the honor of hosting a trailblazer in the healthcare industry, Daniel Tribby. Daniel's journey from healthcare provider to award-winning author, speaker, and business mentor is inspiring. He's helping revolutionize, and I love this, he's helping revolutionize the patient experience and transform healthcare from being transactional to transformational. He's empowered countless entrepreneurs to build practices that prioritize profitability and, more importantly, to the patients, patient care. So join us as we're going to dive deep into Daniel's wealth of knowledge and uncover actionable strategies that are going to help you enhance your client experience and take your business to new heights. Without further ado, let's welcome Daniel Tribby to the show. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey, Scott. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on here, man. That's I always listen to introductions and I'm like, did I really do all that? I'm just...
Well, you know, I love to overhype, you know, I just
Right. Yeah.
All right. So we both got a glass of bourbon here. So you're actually our first episode where that's right. We're going to share. What are you drinking?
This is Rabbit Hill.
Rabbit Hole. Rabbit Hole. Yeah.
Rabbit Hill. Excuse me. Rabbit Hole. Pardon me. I can't remember which of the four ones, but I think it's the Cahill one, which is where I put the hill in there. I think it's the Cahill one.
As we were discussing, we do these business bourbon and cigar leadership retreats, and actually on the last night of that retreat, we did our, closing dinner up at the top of their event space, which overlooks the city of Louisville. And they gave us good tastings of all their different ones, but it's a great distillery. They're doing great things. It's a good tour and they're doing good things with the bourbon. I went to an Old Reliable. I've got some Blantons here. You could probably, if I can,
there you go.
There it is behind me.
Yeah.
You can see it through my microphone there. I love the Buffalo Trace.
Have you collected all the horses?
I have not.
You know, there's
I know I have not. I'm missing a couple letters. So, all right. So let's start off. Let me ask you this. What your passion for transforming healthcare and prioritizing the patient experience, to me, is very commendable. I'm in an industry, my background is the auto industry. And of course, now I've branched out and our audience covers multiple verticals. However, I think a lot of people talk about, the client experience. What inspired you to take this on as a mission, specifically in healthcare?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are super frustrated with the service that they get, in the healthcare industry as a whole. But to go deeper than that, when I first got out of school, my background's in sports medicine and physical rehabilitation. So when I first got out of school and I took my first job, you're gung ho, you're excited. Hey, I'm 22 years old and I'm going to jump into this head steam and make some great money and help a bunch of people. And you don't realize that is such a quantity-driven market, unfortunately. And in my first job, I really felt like we were just here to push patients through a mill, right? So you get referrals from doctors, and you just keep funneling people through. As fast. People have babies in this country. Like that's how many patients we're seeing in a daily. And it got to the point where I'm like, this is crazy for us to be treating 25 to 30 people a day, operating at 120% productivity with 97.5% positive customer service ratings, to have the director of rehab for the entire company say, you guys are doing great. How much more can you handle?
Where the focus is more on volume, and less on.
And I get that it's a business, right? It's a business, it has to make money. I understand that. But when we approach our patient care in a transactional way, like it's a business, it's felt. And when you treat your employees like they're part of that transaction, that's felt too.
So how do you envision reshaping it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of education that has to go into both the consumers and the people who are building these businesses. A lot of people want healthcare reform. And I'm like, that is such a huge animal. Like, to try to take on insurance companies and big pharmaceutical companies, that's such a huge thing. But most patients want that smaller office feel. You think about going to a hospital. Nobody wants to go to a hospital, see a doctor if you don't have to. People want their local area orthopedist, dermatologist, pediatrician, whatever it is. They want to go to that office. So helping the consumer understand the dynamics of how the business works and why that's affected them from the type of treatment they get, but then also helping the entrepreneurs of those smaller offices understand how to put together a model that is not just quantity over quality, but to understand how you can treat a patient with supreme customer service and also maximize revenue per patient instead of just increasing volume to maintain revenue
So
streams.
you brought up earlier that when it's a volume play and it's just all transactional, it can be felt. So I think, and I can't remember the study, but I believe the majority of the people, at least in the United States, express some level of dissatisfaction when it comes to healthcare. So what do you believe are the root causes? So to me, nothing can be fixed until you get to the root cause as to why it's happening. You're just putting Band-Aids on everything. So what do you think are the root causes of the dissatisfaction? And then what steps can people in that vertical take to address these issues?
Yeah, the dissatisfaction, I think, comes from a misunderstanding, or if you could be so bold to say, a miseducation. Both the consumer and the owners of these businesses. So on the consumer side, we want to use our insurance, right? We feel that because we pay this amount per month out of our paychecks or out of our pocket, that we go to these offices, we want to use our insurance. Our insurance should cover it. Well, insurance has reduced the amount of coverage for these particular offices. So that means that these offices have to see a greater volume of people to maintain revenue streams, right? It's still a business. You got to keep the doors open somehow. Well, if I'm a healthcare provider who doesn't have any real business knowledge, then I'm going to do the only thing I know how to do, which is treat more patients. So when that happens, you get this large volume of people that take away time, right? So how many people complain about, I have to go to the office and burn a half a day at work just to be seen for 5 minutes to be handed a prescription and then shoved out the door for the next person to come through. So that happens because you want to use your insurance to go to these offices. These doctors want to accept your insurance, but the insurance doesn't pay them. So they have to see more people, which throws off their time, right? But then if I tell you I have a cash pay business, we don't accept insurance, but if you pay this amount of money, we'll treat you one-on-one for 30 minutes to an hour, whatever it is. And they go, why doesn't my insurance pay for that? What? Like, which one do you want, right? Do you want the quality of service that you're willing to pay for? Or do you want to use your insurance company and complain, right? So it's like you can't have both, unfortunately, the way the system is set up. You just can't. So the other side of that coin is these entrepreneurs who are running these businesses have to figure out another way to increase their revenue stream other than just seeing more patients. And this is because you think if I go to my primary health doctor, I go once a year for a physical, right? Or if I'm sick, that's the only time I go. Well, what are they doing to keep me involved? What are they offering that makes me want to continue to go there or purchase from their office? Right? If Patrick Dempsey can get on TV and do a commercial for a drug when he's not a physician, but plays one on TV and he has enough clout, right, to draw your attention, then you as an actual physician have the ability to sell ancillary products to your patients so that you can help them with their longevity. Now, you're seeing that. Some of these offices do Botox, some do hormones, supplementals. They have all these other things. They're just terrible at selling it to their patients. So when you ask for root cause, it's one, a lack of understanding how to run a proper business model. And two, it's a lack of understanding of the consumer as to what they're paying for because they've been, basically brainwashed into you have to use your healthcare insurance.
So let me give you a couple examples of me. And I was writing down some notes as you were talking that you said a couple things. You said people don't like waiting hours to go in there and be seen for. Let me tell you what frustrates me more. And I've got a great doctor. She's phenomenal. She's very thorough. If you can be too thorough, that would be my complaint, right? Because here's why. I've got a problem with my foot, or I've got a problem with my shoulder, or I've got a problem, whatever it is. Well, come on in. Let me see what's going on. And I know what's going to happen. I got to go in, pay a visit to her, but more importantly, spend an hour to an hour and a half. And she's good about getting me in on time. Her process you're not waiting in the waiting room with her an hour and letting her day get away from her. She's not like that. However, it's still a waste of my time. It's still an hour and a half for me, 2 hours by the time I drive there, wait a little bit, get in the room. She looks at me, then I got to leave and come back. I mean, it's 2 hours I don't have.
Right.
All for the end result, which I know is coming. Let me refer you to this guy. Let me refer you to this person. I would rather just make the call and you make the referral. I know I have a foot problem. I know I have a shoulder problem. I know I have whatever problem it is, right? And maybe that's on me. I should see the specialist, but I just want her to tell me which specialist I need to go to and move on with my day. I don't want to go through that. Yeah. But you brought up this alternative ways of producing revenue where you can give patients more time and the actual care they need without that might hurt you from a volume standpoint, but more than make up from it from a profit standpoint, if I'm hearing you right.
Right.
So
yes,
I just finished that 600 some odd page book from Tony Robbins, and I read a lot of Tony Robbins books. Life Force. Yep.
Life Force.
I actually went down to Naples and did the Foundation Life thing. So I actually looked at it because I'm 55 years old. So I'm like, some of this stuff, things are going to start happening, right? And I want to know now if they're coming, so I can, I'd rather attack the monster when it's small, right? So I get down there, and by the way, everything checked out good. But some of the products that they did sell me, and I'm buying supplements, vitamins, more natural stuff. I'm doing all that. That would be an example of what you're talking about, correct?
It would be. That's an example of health care versus what we typically do is sick care, right? So, and that is definitely an example. So if we can change the mindset of the people that come to our office to one of, hey, we're here to help keep you healthy in the interim between visits, then we have a more successful model that's tailored towards actually helping our patients, not just when they're hurting, but to keep them from hurting, right? But you go back to Sigmund and Freud on that, right? So what did he say? People are going to move in response to pain more often. They're going to move in response to pleasure. So if
away
I were
from
to tell
pain.
you, if
away
you
from
take
pain,
right, they're not going to move. Did I reverse that?
Well, you said both towards.
Yeah. So if they're gonna move in response to pain, rather than towards pleasure. So that is, for whatever reason, pain and sickness is more motivating for people than the idea of doing something that can be gratifying in the future. So like nobody quits smoking until the doctor says, hey, if you don't stop, you're going to die. Then they're like, oh, I guess I better stop. Right. But if nobody tells you have any problems, you're not going to stop. Right. Now, as far as what Tony Robbins is doing, I've read that book and I've read a bunch of his stuff and I've been to a bunch of his courses. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that he has in that book. And especially when it comes to the regenerative medicine process. The clinic that I was just a part of, that I was the co-owner and founder of, we sold it in September of this past year. But it was centered around regenerative medicine. It was centered around bone marrow and fat, which Tony Robbins speaks negatively of. And he promotes this baby goo, 4-day-old thing. I needed 4-day-old stem cells. That's what we had to have, 4-day-old stem cells. Look, boss, one, the FDA is not allowing you to use that in the United States. And two, the science on it says the stem cells, it's questionable whether or not they're alive or not. So, but we understand he owns businesses. He has to promote his businesses inside of his books, regardless of what the science says that everybody would read. His platform is so big that people are going to listen to him rather than actually do their own research. So that's my
good point. I love the
that.
controversial stuff anyways. It helps downloads in comments. So keep them, keep them coming. All right, so let's talk about your book. I don't even know how to pronounce this. I'm going to just say I can pronounce it when it's actually spelled out. Your book title doesn't hit it. It leaves out the U, right? It puts the asterisk in there, but the uneffing private healthcare, uneffing private healthcare, right? The playbook on owning your dream practice. So in that book, you're offering solutions to build a profitable medical practice, right? But more importantly, and this is where I want to key in on, that stands out, rises above the noise and really turns the patients into fans. And when I look back and I'm talking to, doesn't matter what vertical I'm in, that's one of the biggest challenges I think businesses face today is how do I stand out above all this noise that's out there in my marketplace and really differentiate myself from everyone else. So what are some of the solutions, some of the ideas that you're giving these medical practices that then we'll talk about how we can also translate them, regardless of vertical we're in?
Yeah, I think that most people do this when they start off in a way that is thinking that because they have MD after their name or whatever, PT, MD, whatever your particular niche is, if I hang my letters on a door with a sign that says, back pain center, people are just going to come flock to me because if people have back pain, they should come see me because I'm an MD. I graduated top of my class. I did all of those things. Nobody gives a shit about that. People care about what you're going to do for them.
Right. That's right.
Right. So if you're gonna build a business, you have to build it with the person in mind that you desire to work with, the person you desire to treat. Right. Being for everyone is not a business model. Right. If I'm a GI doc, I treat everybody with butt and gut stuff. No, you don't. You treat a particular type of person that has butt and gut stuff. So if we can key in on that, and we build this foundation of speaking to a particular person with a particular problem with a very special way that we do it, that nobody else does it. Now I have a plan in place. Now we can talk about how we set up the business for success because we actually have an idea of who we're for. And then we can structure the business around that, right? You can't just build a business around yourself. You have to build a business around who you're for and your particular way of helping.
It's so, in the businesses, so I own an agency, J&L Marketing, and you're constantly educating business owners or the people that make the decisions, the business leaders within that company that make the decisions on their marketing and advertising. It's so tempting when you're in the weeds to sit there and say, we're missing out on this and this and this, and we could go here. Let's advertise here and here and here. And there is nothing that destroys leads and the quality of leads and ultimately sales and profit more than trying to be everything to everybody. And so that's what you're speaking to here. And this applies, it doesn't matter if it's healthcare or any other vertical. That rule is constant. Quit trying to be everything to everybody and focus in on what you're great at. And more importantly, who does that actually help the most, and talk to that person. So I love that message.
Yeah, I think that because we're healthcare, and I am a provider, so I get it. I get this. We want to help everybody. I want to do the thing that helps the most people in the way that I know how to do it. I get it. The problem with that mindset is it's not marketable, right? You're just casting a wide net and you're catching all kinds of fish, not necessarily the fish
That's
that
right.
you want. So if you go narrow and deep and you go after the exact fish with the right bait, you're going to get the right person that you want to serve every
Yeah.
single time. And if you by chance get one you don't, you know very quickly that you can say no to them. But you get in a trap early on of being for anyone, everyone, because we need to create revenue. We can refine later. Right now, we just need to make money.
Yeah.
Stupid. Very, very stupid
Very
mistake.
few businesses. So let's just say you lucked out and you attracted the right person. When you're trying to provide level of service or products for the masses, and what I mean by the masses is everything, everybody.
Right.
You're very rarely good at all of them. So you could have taken someone that was your ideal client and they came in and maybe they tried this product over here that you do. You're just not great at it, but you do it. All right. So it's more of a convenience play for them more than anything.
Right.
Well, sooner or later, that person leaves you for someone that can do it much better, that specializes in that. And so my thing is this: when you're focused in like what you're recommending here and teaching, not only do you attract the right person, for one, your closing, if you're in other verticals where you actually got to close, your closing percentages go up. So that makes up for maybe a lack or a lower volume of leads. However, I don't think that's the case. I think your ad actually appeals to a higher percentage of who you're targeting when it's extremely relevant and hits home with them. Mm-hmm. So that happens. Then you get the higher closing percentages. But more importantly than all that, now you're working with this client in an area that you're phenomenal at. This is what you do. You do it every day. This is your focus. And your retention goes through the roof. So we can grow our businesses all we want, but if we're losing them just as fast as they come in, we're not growing, right? And so this allows you, what you're teaching, it makes a business not only focus on how they're marketing it, right? But they're also focusing on making sure the product, service, processes, all that starts lining to that specific one. And that's where you're going with this client experience, or in your case, patient experience. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, what you're to speak to the fact, like you want to be good at this thing. And so what is your thing, right? There's what's the book? The One Thing. I can't remember the author right now, but he talks about that. Like, what is the one thing that you're good at or want to be good at? And can you dump yourself into that? And so I've worked with doctors before, and they're notorious. Hey, we need to do this. And we need a marketing plan for that. And then we need a marketing plan for this, and a marketing plan for that. And we need to put this out there, and we're going to do all of these things, and make it happen. I'm like, hey, how about we just do this thing and we get really good at it and we draw people in for that. And then when that's doing really, really well, then we'll design the next thing and we'll go forward with that. And then we'll just get really good at that and we'll draw people in for that. And they're just like, no, we got to go 100 miles an hour right now in a Ferrari with no GPS. I'm like, what? That doesn't work. Like, get good at one thing and do it well. Get people in and hooked on it. And it can be your customer service. Your customer service could be that one thing that you do oh so well. And I'll give you an example. I took my son to the dentist last Monday, and I got an email or a text message for a link to go fill out the paperwork. Mm-hmm. Right? So great. Thanks for the convenience. But also if I'm still sitting in your office filling out paperwork on a clipboard, please catch up. So I'm doing this on my phone, right? Just do. The last two questions. First one was, when you come into our office, would you like to be offered a beverage? And they gave me check boxes. Would you like water? Would you like a soda? Or would you like wine? Would you like bourbon? And I'm like, well, my son's 12, but I'll take part in that for sure. But who does that? And there's a check box that just says, would you like to be asked when you arrive? Next question. During your treatment, would you like to have aromatherapy? Would you like to watch TV? Would you like to listen to music? Check boxes of what you wanted to do. I'm like, this is brilliant because it's two questions that let me know they actually give a damn about how I feel when I walk into their office. You get really, really good at offering a customer experience like that, people are going to flock to you. People are going to talk about you. This is the third or fourth time I've talked about this situation, this particular group. in the last week and a half. So it makes sense to get really good at one thing and decide what is it you're going to offer that nobody else does. What are you going to do that nobody else is doing that people are going to say, hey, go to them because they insert that thing.
So what I'm hearing from that, and I'm hoping, because listen, there's one thing that I want our audience to constantly hear me saying, and that is to keep your eyes wide open and look at other business verticals. What are processes? What are things that they're doing that could, whether it's a sales process, a marketing play, an actual product, service they're providing, whatever it might be. What are they doing that it could be common in their industry, but it could be brand new and a breakthrough in your own industry? And so what I'm seeing this is, if I'm a business owner, and I am, I'm already thinking, when we onboard people, why aren't I asking this and getting all this information in advance? So that way it's tailored. It reminds me, like when I go into a Ritz-Carlton, right? Do I have children? What's the children's name? Are they going to be accompanying me on the trip? All these type of stuff. I show up in the room and I've got toys. I got my daughter's names on the toys. I got all kinds of things that my daughter thinks, man. And of course, when people do things for our children, we just,
best thing since sliced
exactly
bread, right? Yeah. And I love the analogy of Ritz-Carlton, right? And I think what we're touching on as a whole is branding, right? And brand promise versus brand name, right? So you look at Ritz-Carlton, that's a brand promise. Like those guys are taught the mission, vision, and values from the top to the bottom. And every employee that works there abides by those. And they're even empowered to make financial decisions up to a certain amount, right? And everybody knows Ritz-Carlton for that level of service and that level of luxury. And then you say, well, have you ever stayed at a Holiday Inn Express? Well, yeah, sure. Well, what was the experience like? And they're like, well, some were really good, some were really bad, some are great, some are in between. That's a brand name. Holiday Inn is a brand name.
That's exactly right.
It. And Ritz-Carlton is a brand promise. They've built a company around a brand promise. So if you're going to build a business, especially in healthcare, what's your brand promise? Are you just another name? Are you just another, and then there's lots of them. We can name drop all over the place, from the Mayo Clinics to the Andrews Institute to the whatever. But what is their actual brand promise? And better yet, what's yours as a business owner? What is your brand promise?
I love when businesses focus in on trying to create, I love what you're saying here in terms of the brand promise. And I love when people focus in on the brand promise, because it puts so much pressure on the business to live up to it. It forces you to look at your processes, whether they're, internal or external, and always becoming more efficient, more productive. More importantly, how does this impact our clients and our employees? Because obviously, if it impacts our employees in a negative way, it's probably going to trickle to our customers, our clients, right? And so I just love the pressure of using that phrase, brand promise, and the focus. It just forces you to focus on things differently, and I love that. So good stuff there. I'm always curious as to the relationship of these different verticals and how they can relate, and in terms of the relationship, like, how are they different? How are they similar? So talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges or the pitfalls, especially the big ones that maybe the healthcare industry practices face when it comes to marketing their services effectively.
So marketing is a huge issue. And the main reason is that they want to market themselves. Look at me. I graduated this. I have this certification. I went to Harvard. Like, they have all these look at me's. And then they have all of these are the top three things, okay, that I see in their marketing. We get to the root cause. We have state-of-the-art technology, and we use the most up-to-date techniques. Well, if everyone is saying those three things, which one of you actually is doing those three things? Like, stop talking about yourself. Talk about the person that you desire to help, what their problems are, and how you can help them. Nobody cares about your authority until you show some empathy for them. Fix the empathy part, then talk about your authority. That is the biggest mistake that I see. And they riddle their websites with insider language, right? Nobody knows what lumbar radiculopathy is. Get it off your website, dude. It's sciatica, it's back pain, it's leg symptoms. Like, what are
Yeah.
we doing? Like, stop talking to people on any other level other than a fifth grade level about what their problems are and how what you offer can fix their problem and get them back to getting up and down off the floor, going jogging again, being able to sit in the car for more than an hour, whatever it is. Talk to your potential patients about their issues. Stop talking about yourself. Nobody
It's
cares.
so funny. It's and some of the people that continue to make those mistakes the most. I can tell you from personal experience. The agency is marketing agency, right? Great at marketing others. Horrible at marketing ourselves. And the reason for that is you always put the client first. So you're always working on their stuff. You're always, and you kind of put you sit there and have that attitude of, we don't need an agency to help us. That's what we are. But the reality is you don't put the time in it. And quite honestly, when you're in the weeds and you're doing it every day, what you're asking businesses to do, I think a lot of people get it conceptually, but then when you start doing it and trying to create and articulate a clear message that is relevant, it resonates with the right audience, right? Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier said than done. In other words, whether it's taglines, just your elevator pitch, whatever that one sentence is that kind of helps describe what you do or what makes you different than everybody else. Like, for instance, if you're a car dealer, right, and you've got a marketplace that's trying to paint you into a commodity corner. And the reason it wants to paint you in that corner is commodities tend to be, the more of a commodity, the less you cost, right? And so, so the best retailers, whether it's auto, it doesn't matter what it is, the best retailers will have the mindset, and we're going to talk a little bit about mindset because I know you're an expert in that. So the best retailers don't have that mindset that they're a commodity, and they understand stuff and they understand the value they bring. And then the challenge is, how do I clearly articulate that so I stand above all this other stuff? Because to your point, everyone's saying these same three things. Here's the challenge. Let's say you got one of them that do live up to that brand promise and is truly better at those three things than the other two. It doesn't change the fact that if all three people are advertising it and marketing it, the new client that has yet to experience the difference that you might provide, who do they choose? You're all saying the same things. Right. So how do you handle that? Like, so you know what I mean? You still got to say something different.
Yeah, I think that what we have to identify is, what do people want? Do people want to know that you have state-of-the-art technology? Do people care about your features and benefits? Do they really? Or do they really just care about themselves? Right? As business owners, do I care about my patients? Of course I do. Do I care about keeping my business running healthy? Yeah. Of course I do. Well, look at from your patient aspect. Do they care about their business, which their business is their health or their family or their job? Right? Of course they do. So if I'm going to compare myself to everyone else around me in a very competitive way, which competition doesn't exist. I'm so sick of hearing that too. Like, it just doesn't. And not in this world. In healthcare, it just doesn't exist. I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, well, we're getting run out because of big hospital systems down the road. I'm like, no, you're not. You're getting run out because your message is trash and people don't know you exist. So until we can get in touch with the problems of the person whom we desire to help, and we can speak to them in a very familiar way, right? So an example, if I run a cash pay practice, it costs you $250 to come see me for a visit, and I'll spend 30 minutes of one-on-one time with you. Okay? I'm an orthopedic guy, so let's stick with back pain. I'm going to give you 30 minutes of my undivided attention for $250. And if we decide that you're going to do any of our procedures, which are not covered by insurance, that $250 will apply to the cost of the procedure that you choose to do. Okay? If I put myself out there like that, I also have to understand there's only a certain niche in the marketplace that's willing to pay $250 for that. And then I have to dive into how do they think? What do they do? What are their what are their homes decorated like? Where would they shop? Right? Well, what kind of kids would they have? Would they have both parents at home? Right? What kind of household income total do they have? Because once I understand all of that, I can make my website feel very familiar to them. I can make all my social media very familiar to them. All my hard marketing can be very familiar to them because I'm speaking their language. And that's a very different language than somebody who's looking to use their Medicare or Medicaid. Not that there's anything wrong with those, but you have to understand there's a difference in language for those people that speak those things. So until you can identify with that person and you can speak their language and you have uniformity, you have congruence across all aspects of your brand, you're not going to look any different. You're going to look the same. You want the person to look at that and think to themselves, they're for me. They understand me. They get me. I'm going there.
So let's talk a little bit about mindset. So you talk a lot about this when you're speaking and things such as that. And I think it's an overlooked I think it's overlooked a lot, and I know you agree because I've read some of your stuff in terms of it plays a critical role in the success of any entrepreneur. So I guess my question, let me make sure I say this right. Like, what practices or habits, let's put it that way, what practices or habits can individuals adopt when they're trying to cultivate a resilient, the type of mindset you need to get it done?
Yeah. I hear this all the time. I don't need that mindset stuff, right? And I don't need that mindset stuff. Just tell me what I need to do to make $1 million. Tell me what I need to do to schedule more surgeries. Tell me what I need to do. And I can do that. The problem is going to be is that if you implement the things and they don't go exactly the way you expect them to, how are you going to handle it? Right? Are you going to blame me and say it was my system that was trash? Or are you going to be able to look at yourself and just say, okay, this didn't work. How do I need to make adjustments? All right. How do I need to move forward from that? I think that people miss the mindset piece because if they're not successful immediately, it must be the system. It must be somebody else. It's never me, right? Hey, Scott, if you would change everything about yourself to better suit me, I'll be a happier person. Thanks, bro. I'd appreciate that, right? And it doesn't work like that in business, right? If I want the title, then I have to do the things to become the person that gets the title, right? That's how that works. I can't just say to myself, oh, well, I'll be happy when I have, right? Or when I accomplish this certain thing, then I'll be somebody. No, you have to figure out how to become that person before you can have that thing. And so that's what's missed. And people from a resiliency standpoint, you're just soft, right? Like drugstore cotton soft. If you haven't developed the mindset and the habits to be able to push through when things don't go your way, because as a business owner, they're not always going to. In fact, they don't go your way more than they do go your way, right? So if you haven't cultivated the mindset to be able to handle that, you're going to fold like origami.
So what are some of the habits that you see or practices that are common? I don't want to say, I hate that word common when we're trying to say these are the habits you need to do, right? But they're not common in the sense that a lot of people don't do them. But the most successful people, what are some of the common practices or habits that the elite, most successful people that you work with, what do they do?
So from a habits nature, these guys take care of themselves above anything else. So if you think that you can dump yourself 80 hours a week into your business and not spending any time on yourself, you're sadly mistaken. You're going to burn out very, very quickly. So these guys take care of themselves, whether that's reading for education, exercising, yoga, meditation, prayer, whatever it is, right? These guys take care of themselves. That is a huge piece of the successful pie there. They develop relationships with people who are older than them, who have gone where they want to go, and they learn from them. In other words, they're not afraid to hire coaches or mentors. That is a huge thing that people do. And then I would say, lastly, they view problems as opportunities. So there's a lot of people that get into the habit of, I see a problem, therefore I'm not supposed to go this way. I
Yeah.
just shut it down. Then there are people who develop the habit of saying, ooh, a problem. Let's go. Like, how do we, like, I need to find solutions to this problem. Right. And in that search, sometimes I find a total different way to go, or sometimes I actually find the solution that I'm looking for. So those are probably the three things that I see the most from high performers. These guys take care of themselves. They get help from coaches. This whole I'm self-made, I did it alone. No, the hell you didn't. And then lastly, they are problem solvers. Those are the habits that they have created within
I'm
themselves.
curious, what are some of let's just talk about your morning and night. All right. We'll skip the whole thing in the middle. All right. Which could be the most important. You can tell me if it is. So I'm curious as to what I feel like most people have, unless there's some travel and even then they have a pretty set kind of like routine, right? What's your morning routine? What's your night routine look like?
In an ideal world, it obviously doesn't always happen this way. It's very easy to get off track with these things, but in an ideal world, I'm up 6:30 ish, and I'm a single dad, so it's me and my son. So I get up. I might have some quiet prayer time or meditation time or thought processes to myself and say, this is how I want my day to go. So, and I don't necessarily have to get out of bed for that. I can lay there. Too many people wake up and they grab their phone and scroll, see what's going on. You're immediately into like activating your nervous system. I'm not that way. I'm a slow, quiet, like I need time to either meditate, pray, think about ideas, think about my schedule for the day, and just get into my morning that way. I'm up at 7, out of the bed at 7. And then I help my son get all his stuff ready. He gets out the door, and then I will throw some shoes on, usually go for a walk for 30 minutes to 60 minutes and just go through just mental processes of the day. By 9, I am in the office. For me, my morning block is usually my creative time. If I'm writing, I'm blogging, I'm posting, I'm making website edits, I'm responding to emails, I'm doing all of that sensical stuff. And then lunchtime is my workout time. Workout, come back, eat, shower, back in the seat. And I'm usually doing calls until 5, 6 p.m. Like this, doing a call like this in the morning is not normal, something I do. I'm not a people person until like 2 in the afternoon. So I schedule my calls out that way.
Well, wait a minute. You just did a horrible thing for us. You just did a horrible thing. So
I know.
You just told it. We're sitting here with our bourbon glasses, right? And now you said it's in the morning. So that just makes us look horrible.
Oh, it does look horrible. Well, we have to honor the brand. The brand promise is business bourbon. We don't have cigars. We're both inside, but but yeah, that's typically how the way it goes. And then 5:30, 6 p.m. I'm with my son. He usually he's a baseball kid, so sometimes we have practice or run around, do things with him, and then he conks out at 9, and 9 to 11 is me time. I either read, chat on the phone, watch something on TV, prep some stuff for the next day, and then I'm cashed out by 11.
So a couple things. You said take care of yourself. So you're working out every day. So by the way, it's walking is a workout. So you're really working out twice a day because you're working out again at lunch. But then there's a lot of you time in there, whether it sounds like it, and you're doing this, and you have to be disciplined as a single dad. You don't have an option. If you're going to be successful, you better have some type of thing. And if you don't carve out that me time, that's not real sustainable towards success. So I love what you're doing. So I used to do the workout at lunch. But you know what my problem was? I would run into like things I'm doing in the office or working. And so I work out with a trainer. And I do that 5 days a week. And so the problem I had was I'd sit there and I'd get on a project that I probably could have come back to, but then I'm on a roll. You get on that creative, get into that flow, right? And I don't want to interrupt it. So I'd be like, too many times I found myself, hey, got to miss today. I said, so I can't do it. So now I'm a 6 a.m. workout guy, which I hate. I used to do
that too. I did that during COVID. did that during COVID because all the gyms were closed, and I was like, well, so I flipped it. I'd get up and work
Yeah.
out in the morning, get everybody set
Yeah.
off to school, work, and then I go for
Yeah.
a walk at lunch, right? Because you need those
do.
breaks, and you need that moment of clarity. There are times when I'm sitting here and I'm working, and I'm like you, I'm in flow. I
Right.
don't want to stop, right? And sometimes I'll push through, and then I'll just cut my workout a
Yeah.
little bit shorter. But then there are other times where I'm blocked and I'm like, this is so aggravating. I can't get what I want out of this. And so I shut it down. And in the middle of my workout, 250 pounds on my back squatting, and I'm like, and it hits me. So sometimes you do have to get away from the thing and you do have to do something else, whether it's a walk outside to just listen to the birds chirp that open you up to creativity, or it's a workout, or it's something totally different than what you were doing. And the idea usually flows to you that way. So taking those moments as a business owner
That's
throughout
right.
the day to connect will give you
Well,
better
I think
ideas.
that I look at them as rewards. So the way I block my time in the morning, I put my most important projects early because I'm like you. It's when I'm most creative. I feel like my brain operates better in that first part. Having said that, right? By the way, I wanted to point something else out about your routine. You're always working. So you're looking at your next day. You're in the morning. You're doing your thing. People think entrepreneurs, that they come from the employee side to being an entrepreneur, that their day ends at 5. When you're an entrepreneur, your day never ends. There is no there. Your work-life balance is right. It's all together. So it's all one really.
Right.
But I use
Yeah.
those as rewards. So I knock out a project, I get it done, whether it's 10, 15 minutes or maybe a walk that might be 30 to 45 minutes. I almost treat it like a reward for getting that big project done. But at the same time, it refocuses me, resets me, and getting out of my chair, getting outside. I need that. I can't go 8
Yeah.
hours straight unless I can do it, but usually, the second half of that work isn't that wonderful. So
Yeah, I think though too, like you're at a day and age, like we're at a day and age where we
correct.
can do that. Like I've done the 60, 70, 80 hour weeks. I've done them, right? They suck. I don't have to do them anymore. So if you're a new entrepreneur listening to this, you're thinking to yourself, there's no way I could have that schedule. I get it. Because when you're first starting out, you have to do what we call
That's
hood
right.
rat shit. Like you just,
Yeah.
you're the guy.
That's
You got to
right.
do all of it, or the gal. You're the person that has to do it all. And then, so you have to structure your schedule to be able to do all of that. People say, well, what about my work-life balance? I'm like, that's the biggest myth on the planet. There isn't such a thing. The actual thing, what you're talking about is opportunity cost. So what is the cost? If I work until 7, 8 o'clock at night, what's the opportunity cost to the other things? I'm only one person. I only have energy to do a certain thing at a certain time in the day. Well, the opportunity cost for me is I don't get to spend quality time with my child. So that means I didn't do what I needed to get done in the middle of the day to a point where it was acceptable. So now I'm working into that other time. So there's an opportunity cost there. So if that's you, then you have to consider how much work are you putting in and who could you hire, what systems you could put in place, or what operational things you need to do that can give you more opportunities to spend time doing the things that rejuvenate you or energize you.
Let's talk a little bit about, and I want to take your answers and then apply them across all different business verticals if we can. Couple more questions here. Let's talk about the importance of patient-centric care. And where I'm going to go, you'll see where I'm going with this. How can healthcare practitioners ensure that their practices prioritize the needs, the experiences of their patients above everything else? And here's where I'm going with this. I'm curious as to hear your answer as it relates to healthcare, because to me, it's probably going to apply across all business verticals, because how do we make the client number one and what they care about? And you've touched on it a little bit, but I want to get real specific on this.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think patients, believe it or not, patient-centric. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say. Why patient-centric care doesn't actually start with the patient. It actually starts with I have a duty mindset thing that I teach. And the first duty that you have is to yourself, your brand, your promise, your business. You have a duty to grow that, to harness that, and to live that. Your second duty is to your team, teaching them or making sure you're hiring the right people that connect with the values of that brand promise. And now, if that's in alignment, patient-centric care comes super easy because we all understand why we're here, right? And if being patient-centric is not part of your brand values or your brand promise, then you're never going to have patient-centric care. But it has to start at the top. So people are like, "Oh, the customers are first, the patients are first." They're not. My brand promise and honoring that's first. Hiring the right people to deliver on that is second, and then it's very, like you said earlier, it just trickles down from there. The patients get what it is that they want and that they deserve. Now, in order to cultivate that, usually it's little things. It's an extra couple questions on your forms that let me know that you want to be offered some sparkling water when you come in, right? Or a glass of wine or whatever it may be, right? you want to have aromatherapy during your session, right? It's getting rid of the sliding glass door that is part of your welcome. I hate that. If I walk into your office and you're like, "Shh, sign in and have a seat. We'll call you up in a second." Shh, I'm like, "I'm leaving. I'm not signing anything. I'm out." Because that is the rudest thing on the planet. Like, open your area. Invite me in to your business. Don't invite me to stand behind the glass like I'm waiting to see somebody in a prison cell, right? Like, these are all little things that people can do to make you feel wanted. Right? If somebody walks up to you and you're on the phone, all it takes is for you to look up at them and go, and then you finish your phone call and you go back to them. That's all I need. If I'm standing there and you're like this, you're not paying attention to me. That's all I need for you to go, "Oh, sorry, 1 second." And then you finish. That's it. That's all I need. Right? And so people neglect these little things that make your office feel customer service driven or patient-centric.
There are so many businesses, brick and mortar businesses, retailers, it doesn't matter, that make that mistake. And all you have to do is eye contact, and you just have to know you're being acknowledged. And if you're busy, just like you're 100, it makes me feel so much better. But when they're intentionally not looking at you because they're busy, nothing is worse. Nothing is worse.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about collaboration and networking. Share your thoughts on that. And then more specifically, like, how do you recommend entrepreneurs, how would you recommend that they cultivate meaningful relationships and partnerships to support their growth?
Yeah. Find people that treat the same kind of patient that you want to treat. Like, if you're a cash pay practice, stop going to places that are insurance ridden, that take Medicare, Medicaid, there's nothing wrong with those insurances, but they're two different people. Like, you're treating two different people. So if you are a heavy insurance place that takes Medicare, Medicaid, go get referrals from other places that also do the same thing, right? So if you can connect to people who are treating your ideal patient in other verticals in healthcare, then you can establish a great network of referral systems, right? And referrals should be about 1/3 of what comes in your door. A lot of healthcare practices rely too heavily on that. But if you're relying on referrals, you need to network with people that treat your patient, that treat the ideal client that you wish to treat.
I was working with, I've got and I'm not going to mention names, so I feel like I can bring this up. You bring up referrals. We're working with someone in our mastermind group, in the Me Plus Ultra group, and she's going to be in the hot seat coming up actually tonight. And I'm working with her last week on making sure that the ultimate question she wants to ask the members help with, is this the real question you need help with? And make sure we really get as much background information to everybody to save us time so we can work on solutions, right? And she's bringing up, and it's about prospecting. How do I prospect better? How do I get in front of more final decision makers? So I'm asking her like what she's doing from a marketing standpoint, and I'm getting all this clarifying questions out of the way, and I'm just finding it. And it comes to almost everything she sells, every lead that she actually sells comes from referrals. She's not getting a lot of other leads, and those leads don't translate or don't actually convert. So almost all her leads come from referrals that convert to sales, which in the end is most important. So I asked, what type of processes, what formal processes do you have to get more referrals? None. So sometimes in these talks, prior to even being in the hot seat, answers start becoming very clear. It's just some things you can do to increase business, right? But just her working with me, and she doesn't pay me for that. She joins the group, so in that sense, yes. So I don't, I don't do private consultations or anything like that. But in working with that, just fine tuning her session for the group. I mean, man, that is a form of collaboration. But her, I try to tell people this when it's about the biggest mistake I made in the first half of my, I guess, business career was I was so competitive and so driven to think that I can do this on my own. I don't need you. I don't need you. I don't need you. Here's my vendors. Here's my vendors and suppliers. And I treated them like that instead of true partners.
Right.
Second half of my career, completely different. The value of, and I know that's common to say, the value, your network equals your net worth, right? But it's so true. And growth can be accelerated. It's so much faster. It's so much easier. And quite honestly, it's a lot more fun when you can share it and work with other people that have been there, done that. I mean, many times better than you and faster than you. Why go through that learning curve? Work with these people and develop those relationships and surround you with people that, like you said, you want to, where do I want to be? Right? Start surrounding yourself with that.
Yeah.
So,
you're around the right people, having the right conversations. Like it's, and you don't have to be. A lot of people feel, I think, embarrassed that they're maybe not on the same level as somebody else, and they don't want to join that group. It's key to your success. The problem is that I think a lot of people they feel embarrassed because they feel less than, like, I don't belong in this circle. Imposter syndrome a little bit. And I think that if you're in your ego that way, you're going to sabotage in a way that's going to limit your growth. You have to understand that all those people in that room having that conversation were you once upon a time. Right. So you belong in that room. So get in that room, have those conversations. The only way you're going to grow.
So let me ask you this. Finally, for our audience that's listening to you, whether they're listening or watching us, they are eager to learn more from you, explore the different resources that you might be able to have. We mentioned your book, and you can mention it again. Where can they connect with you? How do they find you? What's the easiest way for them?
Yeah, so the best way for me is just directly through my website. It's danieltribbyofficial.com. So somebody else out there on the planet is named Daniel Tribby, of all weird names to have. So I had to put the official after mine. So just danieltribbyofficial.com. And then you can check out my book there. You can schedule a call with me there. You can just you book me as a speaker. You can do pretty much anything you want to do with me on that website.
You know what's worse than being called Daniel Tribby, having two different Daniel Tribbys? You know what's being the non-official one. All right, so being the non-official one. so
you're just Daniel Tribby. You're not official, bro.
That's right. You're the official one, and so that requires, we talk about brand promise. That requires that raises the perception and my expectations that much more, right? So, but once again, I want to reemphasize that it's danieltribbyofficial.com.
That's it.
All right. So, guys, get out there, reach that, and with that, there you have it. It's another insightful conversation on business, bourbon, and cigars. Huge thank you to our guest, Daniel Tribby, for sharing his expertise and invaluable insights and transforming the healthcare practices and prioritizing, more importantly to me, the patient care. So, and the experience, regardless of the business vertical that you're in, it's my hope that you're either, whether you're watching or listening to this episode, that you learn from what was discussed today. And a lot of times what we see common, and as I mentioned this earlier, what we see is common in one industry can be a breakthrough in your own industry. And we've also discussed in episodes past Breakthroughs come in a lot of different sizes, shapes, and colors. They don't all have to be, we hear the word breakthrough and we think this big, huge thing. Little breakthroughs can have, and sometimes the simple breakthroughs can have the biggest impact on your, whether it's your productivity, your efficiency, your profitability, and your growth. So look for those breakthroughs regardless of size. Breakthroughs are what make people wealthy and take businesses to the next level. So thank you for tuning in. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, share, leave a review, especially if it's the 5-star review. Those are the ones we appreciate the
Shameless
most.
plug.
Especially if you found this episode valuable. So until next time, keep striving for excellence and winning big. Raise your glass there, Daniel.
Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks, Scott.